Hej, jag heter Marianna och jag kommer att prata på engelska. Det är en av de föreläsningar som är på engelska. And the reason is that I actually come from England. My background is, my first degree is from Athens University of Economics and Business. And if anybody doesn't know where Athens is, it is in Greece. It is the capital of Greece. And I have a bachelor's degree there in management science and technology. Then I went out into the world and worked for a couple of years. I did a few different things. And I came back to Sweden to do a master's, this time focusing on the environment, environmental management and policy. After that, I decided to do a PhD here at Linköping, finished my PhD in 2021, and now have remained here as an assistant professor. What I do is something which the most of the world is discussing at the moment, the circular economy. How many people here have heard of the term circular economy? Raise your hands, please. Very good. Circular economy. Well, with a massive resource use. This one comes from the International Resource Journal. It was published in 2019 with data up to 2017. The next one is coming out in 2024. So this is the best we have at the moment. As you see, everything is increasing. Biomass use, fossil fuel use, metal ores, non-metallic materials. All the resources that are being extracted from Earth are increasing. That is the challenge. So circular economy comes to offer a solution. The idea is, and this definition comes from the EU definition of a circular economy, different countries or different constellations of countries have their own definitions. This one is the EU one. It's an economy where products, materials, and resources are maintained in the economy for as long as possible, and the generation of waste is minimized. But what does that mean, essentially? Well, normally, you have a linear process. You extract raw materials, you take them into production, you sell them, you use them, and then you throw them away. But that means that we're extracting more and more and more, and we're throwing away more and more and more. So it's a problem at both ends. The circular economy tries to keep these resources in the economy in different ways. You can, first of all, repair so that the same user can use the same thing for longer. You can share, that is for tools or for cars which are not used for large parts of the day, you can share. You can reuse, that means that when you're done with something, you can give it back to a place that sells it to somebody else. Remanufacturing, that's when you take it back and you actually do some more remanufacturing. It's not in a good enough condition. It needs something done to it to be able to be used by somebody else. If you can't do that, you recycle, trying to get the materials out. Finally, if you can't do any of those options, you try and recover energy. And let us not forget another part of the circular economy, which is actually to reduce consumption. Now, as an idea, it's very, very good, but what is the big challenge here? That companies need to make money, because we've built our whole world on companies making money, right? And the idea was that things should break down so people would go out and buy more things, and so companies would have money, people would get jobs. So in order for this to work, we need to find ways that companies can make money, be profitable, economically viable by doing all of the things that I talked about previously. And we talk about circular business models in our research. Now, if you're not familiar with management, it'll be a completely new term for you, but business models essentially describe how companies create value for their customers, how they capture it in prices. Circular business models enable companies to do that, to offer something to their customers in such a way that makes sure that materials circle back. I'm going to give some examples of these to make it a little bit more concrete. But the key is to find the value in the residual product, the one that you're going to throw away, and see who is prepared to pay for it. Find the people or the niche or the need that makes them willing to pay for it. We have different, this was very theoretical, now I'm going to the more practical part where I actually give some examples. There are different kinds of business models. I'm going to talk about 5 today, 5 business models, and I'm also going to give some numbers so that you actually see, because it's nice to talk about reducing environmental impacts, but one thing that we do is also to measure. So, this is the easiest to explain. This is the classic long life model. As I said, we have tried to make things that break down so that we can sell more of them. Yeah, that's one of the things. It's called planned obsolescence. It started up in America in the 60s. They actually wrote about it. Before that, still after the Second World War, they were trying to make products that lasted a long time. But then somebody said, oh, you know, if we're making products that last forever, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. The customers are not going to come back. So we moved on to these short lifespans. Not only things that break down, but also fashion forces you to buy more things. It's all pushing us to buy more and more. The classic long life model is basically going back to after the war periods when you said, okay, I'm going to make something which lasts forever, both in design, in fashion, and actually doesn't break down. And how do you earn money off that? Well, you actually charge a bit higher than higher price than something which wouldn't last as long. It's one of the most simple models, and I have an example here of a small Swedish company that we worked with during Mr. Aris project. This one is called Polyplank, and they create these sound walls that made of a composite material. So what happens with these? Well, they're made of residues from the plastic and the wood industry, and they are made in such a way that they have a very, very long lifespan. And not only that, but when they're done, you can take them back, you can grate them down, and you can make new ones. It's quite simple, right? So the next model, this one gets a little bit more complex. Here, companies make money by selling a large part of the product which is durable and lasts a long time, and then try to make money with shorter-term upgrades. Think of software that becomes upgraded, or if you want to do something small but keep most of the product the same. There you earn money from selling the large part in the beginning, and then you make a little bit of money as you go along. This is a company we worked with 2019. You might have seen their products. They make recycling bins and all kinds of furniture that go into the public spaces. You might have seen them at Arlanda train station. Right, what do? They normally just sell the products, the customers keep them, and that's it. Well, instead, they try to prolong the life by doing some sort of refurbishment. In the case of these lockers, these can actually last for about 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. We don't even know. They can last for a long time. But the problem is that people say, oh, it looks old. It's the style of 10 years ago. Or in every office work, people come in and they say, okay, we're a new company. We want our colors here. We want our style here, even though they're in a very, very good condition. So what the solution was is that they can take back the doors, repaint them, put them back on. So you still get a new style. They can still charge money and earn money from it, but they reuse most of it. And here you see some results, because what we do, again, I think that had it been another time, fact-based research. This is what you see here is the greenhouse potential, like how much impacts climate. This has been measured. You see before and when you reuse and paint, you have a very, very big improvement in terms of the impact on the climate. And this is the impact on the costs. So it also costs the company more. So they reduce their cost, they reduce climate impact, but they can still earn money by offering upgrades. Yet another model. This one is actually the one which has most been discussed in research, the most promising one, the one that most people are hoping will work. It's called the access model. You don't buy something, you buy the right to use it. Basically rental. It's a bit like renting a flat or renting anything, but there are different forms of it. So instead of buying a car, you lease a car. Or whether buying a forklift truck, you lease a forklift truck. Or even with jeans now, instead of buying your jeans, you use your jeans for some years and then you give them back. How does that help the environment? Well, if it's not the customer owning, but the producer owning, and if the producer earns money, the longer the product is in use, they will design so that it doesn't break down. They will design it so that it lasts long. The lifetime of resources is prolonged. And when the time comes and you can't use it anymore, they will take it back, they will remanufacture it, they will recycle it, and they have the know-how to do it because they have designed it from the beginning. We have a lot of successful examples. I again am focusing on small and medium-sized companies. That's why I'm not going to go into Toyota or into cars that have done it, although they've done it very successfully. I'm focusing on a small company here in Östergötland that sell digital and other visibility solutions, physical, they're tents, flags, these kind of things they sell, carpets with logos on them. And they would normally, we looked at two of their products, the event tent that they have at events, they just own the beach flag, both use at events. Normally a company would buy the tent or the beach flag, they would use it for an event which lasts 1 week or a number of weeks or a couple of days, and then they'd just put it in the storage or they'd throw it away. But that's not a very efficient use of resources, all of the things we have stowed away in our cupboards. So they take the company markets graphic design, they take in the textile, they take in the pole and frame, they send it out to distribution, it is used, the textile is disposed of, energy recovery, and the pole and frame are recycled. Now instead of that, they can rent it out. They can't use a textile because it has a specific company's logo on it, but they can reuse the metal parts. And they can reuse them at least up to 10 times. Here are the results. Again, you see the impact on the environment. It's an amazing improvement by reusing the metal parts. That is because metal parts need a lot of energy and general resources to be extracted. And we also see a reduction in costs. So, this is another way of doing it. The fourth way is a different business model. It's called the gap exploiter model. This is when other companies, a third party, maybe you've heard of Swappy. Yes. This is the gap exploiter model. When a third company comes out and buys back from the customers, does some remanufacturing and sells it. So they find the value in things that we don't need, our mobile phones which are left in our wardrobes, our clothes that we don't wear anymore, our tools that we don't need, whatever it can be. So they find the value in that and they take it back and they sell it. It's quite, it's one of the most promising, I would say, business models, because we've seen a lot of companies, not only in Europe, but in other countries of the world, use this business model. And not least the company that we worked with in Rego in our project. The fifth, and maybe the most complicated business model, is called industrial symbiosis. It comes from the Greek word to live together, industries living in harmony. The idea here is that every single company has waste and byproduct that they do not need. But can they find a way that another company can use this? Waste heat becomes district heating. Parts of metal left over from production become tarmac and roads. It's this idea that in the same way as nature, because it builds upon biomimicry, lives in harmony, that's how industry should live in harmony. And this way industries can find new sources of revenues or reduce their fees from throwing away byproducts and waste. And we have this example from Händelö in Norrköping, if you have seen it or heard about it, where we have a lot of companies living in harmony, basically. You see there's a lot of flow of byproducts going around. You have, for example, wastewater becoming biogas. You have CO2 being used in our drinks to make bottled water. A lot of things happening. So, those were our 5 business models that we looked at. I'm going to say a few words, apart from business models. It's not the only thing which is important. Another very, very important ingredient in the circular economy is designing products. You need to design products in order to last long or to fulfill the purpose for which you want to do. Now, I'm going to give you an example of company C. They offer vacuum and waste collection systems. Basically, they offer these, you go into an inlet, you open the door, you put the rubbish and it gets sucked away. You've seen the system, right? They offer maintenance on these systems. They realized maintenance is a circular business model in a way. You make the product last longer and you earn money off of it. So maintenance is, so they already had a circular business model. But then they looked at their system and said, okay, we offer maintenance, what can we do to improve this? And they saw, okay, the thing which breaks down the most is actually the door. So they went and redesigned the door of the waste inlet, and they made it so that the door can be replaced faster and with less material. A design change, so it becomes faster to replace the door. And also you don't need to change out the whole door, but a part of it. The impact of this change on the environment was quite small. The impact, however, on their costs was significant. For a business model to work, it's not just to find the value and offer it to the customer. You need to design your product to do it. This is also something which I don't do most of my research on, but I help out my colleagues who do. And we worked with this company. Finally, and just to put everything into perspective, especially since we've recently had elections, there is only so much that companies can do by themselves. Even if they design their business models and design their products and make the changes and create value, you still need policies and laws that will support it. You need to have government support. They need to help make warranties. They need to help create the legal system that will protect consumers to feel comfortable using reused stuff, that companies will feel secure in offering them because they know where they're operating. They also might need to help give money and change taxes in order to create a demand initially before it can take off. They might need to remove taxes and subsidies from products that already have them. This is not one or the other. It has to come from both sides. And let us not forget, least of all, the consumers, who also have a role to play in this. And that was the end of my presentation. We started ahead of schedule, so I think it's all right. If you have any questions, or if you want to contact me afterwards. Maybe I can just say a little bit about the research that we do here, because I am part of the division called Industriell Miljöteknik. And we have researchers we're actually the biggest division in IEI. We have a lot of research going on, both with product design, with business models, with biogas, with technology. There are things for everybody to do in the area of environmental science, sustainability science, circular economy, if you're interested. Thank you very much.